So let's talk about it. First off, we're going to talk about the new Jesmon support. Jesmon GX in general, when digivolving, you may place one Digimon card with Royal Knights in its traits and a play cost 13 or less from your hand or trash under this Digimon as a bottom Digi-Evolution card. Activate that one of the placed Digimons when digivolving effects, then blitz. So what's really useful here is we have very much viable targets for this, and that is just going to be our Jesmons themselves. We do have a Ginkumon, so it's not going to be terrible, but it doesn't have an effective when digivolving. It just plays another Sistermon, which is not terrible. But all turns, while this Digimon has a Royal Knight in its traits, in its Digi-Evolution, it gains Piercing, Blocker, Security +1 for each. So this is constantly checking, so it'll have 3 security checks in certain circumstances. So he's kind of our go-to finisher. He's going to apply a lot of pressure. It blitzes. A lot of our top-end blitzes. We have 2 Jesmon that kind of just blitz if we can get into it. And pass turn, we can still win game. And that's the same with this Jesmon. When digivolving blitz, you may place 1 Sistermon. So the deck really centralizes on playing these Sistermons for free, so allowing you to go off from there. And then while you play another Digimon by an effect, this Digimon gets plus 3,000 and security +1 for the turn. This is consistent. It doesn't just go away, so he becomes like a 15 base with security +1. So, not bad. And then we do have its X antibody. It gains piercing. And then when digivolving, you may place 1 Digimon card with Sistermon in its name from your hand or trash without paying its memory cost. And then if Jesmon is in its Digi-Evolution cards, you have a Digimon with Sistermon in its name in play, all your Digimon get plus 2,000 DP and may attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. This is one of the few X antibodies that doesn't use the option at all, and it's fine. We don't need it. They have Ginkumon Promote, who's going to de-Digivolve once per turn when a Digimon is played by an effect. So it helps alleviate threats that are a little too big for us. We can bring them down to size. And then when digivolving, you may play 1 Huckmon or 1 Digimon with Sistermon in its name from trash without paying its cost. Well, that's all in all great stuff here. Things that really help the deck go faster is, like, from Master to Disciple. This helps reduce the memory costs to digivolve into our Jesmons. Really does help finish off games, because sometimes that's all we need to be able to keep it our turn and apply more pressure. And then it also searches, reveal the 3 cards from the top of your deck, add 1 Huckmon or Sistermon or a card with Royal Knights in its trait from them to your hand, trash the remaining cards to the bottom, trash the remaining, and then this card is played into the battle area. And then it has a similar on-play effect in security. Then cards like Savior Huckmon, who let us OTK, which gets us multiple attacks. So if you go with Blitz Jesmon and you just played, let's say, Seal, that gains you a memory, you instantly now go back. If you started with 3, instantly go to give it to your opponent for 1. Jesmon blitzes, play the Sistermon Seal, gain 1 memory. Now you restand, you've already had more value. And now you can swing again on your opponent and just really apply a lot of pressure. Then we also have this Savior Hawkmon that lets you attack into your opponent's Digimon. Really helps out as well. I mean, Seal here is one of the more important pieces now that basically let us go into our next form for free, basically, when it's played. It's super easy to get it off. It's in your hand. You'll go to it usually. And then when you Digivolve into a Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knights in its trait, gain 1 memory. This Seal is basically straight up just to gain the memory. It's just funny. It's just a bunch of gain memories and apply pressure. And then we have this Seal that'll give Reboot, and then revealing the top cards, searching. This one's basically a trash 1 card, draw 2, and then it gives Decoy to stuff. This gives Blocker. Solarmon is just really just to help prevent your opponent from death Xing your board. And then the rest, we kind of already know what's happening here. You know, being able to delete stuff, and it's just being able to give power, be able to grab all the Sistermons out of the top 5, and this one's just searching for 2 pieces, so it's really useful. And then Gurimon's just for that draw. Ties our memory setter, and the extra security check does come in handy. And then Searcher memory boost. And then one other combo play is, because we are playing we should be playing a couple level 4s here in this situation, we can Jogrus them into Chimeramon, and then climb right back into a Jesmon because we'll take a red piece from the trash because we're trashing cards too. And that's kind of how we're going to OTK is Chimeramon OTK. Major reason why this got restricted because Chimeramon exists. So, next, we do have Jesmon, Jesmon. This card deck is central around the fact that we are going to use Gammamon's all effects. The main objective is we're going to have him. He's going to have security +1. He'll probably have retaliation, piercing, unblockable, stuff like that, so that your opponent's less likely to swing into him. Or if you swing into a Digimon, you can take it in a trade. So it's just a lot of power here because Digivolving for a cost of 3 on a level 4 that contains Gammamon. When one of your tamers becomes suspended, this Digimon gets plus 2,000 DP for the turn. Then if this Digimon has 12,000 DP or more, this Digimon gets security +1. So super easy. We also have to realize we do have, heroes that are going to give us a lot more power. All turns, Digimon gains all effects of cards in the CG evolution cards with Gammamon in their name, and then it has a go up further effect, but most likely we're not going to care about that. It is our level 5. We do also play Chimeramon just to joggress our, level 4s up. And then Death Xmon is just to help slow down the game that we're going to be facing against Shoutmon and any of the cross decks. Just because they play a lot of tamers, we're going to have to take some punishment. And a lot of this stuff is here for extra security checks, like Lightning Joust, Hero of the Sky, but it also draws this card if we need it. We have Bear Claw, that's going to just give us draw and more power boost attacks. But Hero here, as long as we have one Gammamon in its sources, instantly going to gain security checks. And this one gives us power. The rest are kind of just control board status. Sky Force and Crimson, Blaze, Gravity Crush to extend our plays. Digi plugins, just to Digivolve up faster. We have Beto Gammamon, basically for Blitz. I already said Kas Gammamon is just for our blocking, unblockable. This card becomes piercing, so if we don't have the blue one, we can at least pierce through their blocker. And then Gauss Gammamon, just retaliation, and then on deletion, you may play one Digimon card Gammamon from your trash suspended without paying its memory costs, resets up stuff, and can get really crazy from there. And then basically a bunch of Gammamon stuff. Most notable is this Gammamon for drawing us cards when we play a red tamer, and that's going to help us out, keep our momentum going. This one's just for, can attack unsuspended Digimon. It really does help out. Gammamon here is while you have a hero in play, it gains plus 2,000 DP. And then you have this Gammamon, deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with 2,000 DP, and then when attacking, deletes a 2,000 DP. And then draw Guri. And then this Guri here is just for the extra power boost. And then Aguni for game. Nothing too crazy about this deck. It's very linear. It's still kind of trying because there's no consistent way of the Gammamons getting to your hand. So you don't have a consistent way of getting the right pieces lined up. Sometimes you'll get it. Sometimes you'll have like janky status. So that's just kind of how the deck goes. But it's a really fun and powerful deck. Now let's talk about Metal Greymon itself. Metal Greymon, aka Blue Flare, is all about using this combination, using, let's say, our red Greymon for the extra security check. So it has material save. So when this Digimon would be destroyed, you can place 2 of this Digi-Evolution sources at the bottom of one of your tamers. Not a bad thing. Really good power. Most of the time, it's on play. This Digimon gains Rush. And then if this Digimon has... if you Digi-Cross 3 of your opponent's Digimon with a number of Digi-Evolution cards less than or equal to this Digimon cannot attack or block until the end of opponent's next turn. So if we're removing sources and making them smaller, we can actually take some advantage out of this. And what do I mean by that? Usually this will have 2 sources. Not terrible, right? Right. So Digi-Cross, this is Greymon and Malbergermon. When you would play this card, you may place 1 of each of the listed cards from your hand or / battle area at the bottom of this Digi-Evolution card. So he can come in for a 3 cost, which is really powerful, and that's just requiring Malbergermon and a Greymon. No crazy shenanigans there, but What's really useful about this is it also has a sort of boss Digimon in Decker Greymon. So what you can do is get into Metal Greymon, and then Digivolve up into Decker, but you can also hard play this, making it a 5 cost come in. So on play or when Digivolving, you may place one Digimon card with blue flare in its traits from your hand, or under a Tamer to the bottom of this Digievolution card. Then if this Digimon has Decker in its Digievolution, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until the end of next turn. It gives a smaller target, but what this is doing is if he ever armor purges back into Metal, you can actually have more resources and then apply more restrictions to your opponent's Digimon's attacks. And it's just Metal Greymon and Decker Dramon. So very much powerful skills. Kiraha, I'm just gonna say Christopher. It saves me time. Start a turn, sets you to 3, really useful, but when you would play a Digimon card with Digicross requirements by spending the Tamer, you can also place cards from under your Tamer as Digievolution cards for Digicross. So basically, this is kind of like our Mikey of the deck, where we can use it to get sources in, to build up, and just go to town there. Just very useful. Sometimes you just need Tamers. What's really powerful is one card you really want to see in your opening hand is this Blazing Memory Boost. Going first or second, this card is always good. It's one of those cards you want to play because it just gives you so much value. Revealing the top 6 cards of your deck, add 2 Digimon with blue flare in its traits among them to your hand, and then you may play one Christopher among them without paying its memory cost. Place the remaining cards at the bottom of the deck in any order, and then this card, place it in battle area. It's also a gain 2. For 5 costs, you pretty much get a Tamer out of the deal and a +2 in most circumstances. Worst case, you just whiff, but it's still not a bad trade-off. But most likely, if you whiffing, pretty slim. What's also very powerful is your Sora and Joe. This is going to help remove sources from your opponent's Digimon to make it so that they can be stunned by your Metal Greymon, and that's really what it's here for. But it also gains more memory if they don't have sources. Forbidden Tridents, here's just to pop any of the, Psychmon variants, Solarmon, and then Chichurymon. Howling Memory Boost strips some sources and hopefully stun. If we don't, we just stripped enough just to help us. Ice Wall is basically making your opponent not try to OTK you, gives you a backup turn. Kikaitis Breath, return one of your opponent's Digimon to its owner's hand. Not terrible. I mean, I like it. Kikaitis Breath is always going to be Kikaitis Breath. And then, the crazy shenanigans, blue flares, revealing the top 4 cards, add 2 cards with blue flare among them to your hand. This is going to be searching you for your Greymon, and if you have Christopher, you may return 1 Metal Greymon from your trash to your hand, helps recycle lost pieces, and then it has Save, basically hides underneath a Tamer. And then it always, these when attacking effects usually have, they're usually a opponent has to have 2 Digimon effect kind of going on here. So when attacking, if you have a blue flare in its traits, your opponent has 2 or more Digimon, unsuspend this Digimon, and it kind of gives you 2 attacks in a turn. Really good. Decker Dramon, on play, draw a card, on deletion, save, and then for each of your opponent's Digimon, draw a card. More they have, more plus value. While your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, plus 1000 DP. Male Birdramon helps you play a Christopher if you don't have one, but if you do have one, you get to recycle the Metal Greymon back. Not a bad trade-off, and then on deletion save, and then while this Digimon has blue flare and traits, and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until the opponent's next turn. Again, stunning without the fact of the matter of having to need no sources. This deck is all about stunning your opponent and just shutting them down. Leomon's just for a blocker, draw, and gain 2 memory, sets up. Jamming Vmon is just straight up more source control, making your opponent have to target this thing because it's not dying unless they attack it. Gammamon is just basically getting a free blue flare back onto the board. Our level 4s are pretty easy to get in. And then, Babeto for draw if your opponent has 2 or more, and then Upamon if they have no sources. And then 2 Death Xmon just for the mirror matches and or our opponent's Xros Heart matchup. So that's just what we're going to do, and that's just pretty much the deck in a nutshell. It's very powerful. It's consistent. It's going to apply a lot of damage. And like I said, this red Greymon's just in here for that extra security check. And then we have Sakuyamon. So most of the deck really relies on Rika being able to so when you attack with a Digimon with Renamon, Cubimon, Tamon, Sakuyamon in its name, you may suspend this tamer, use one option with a plugin in its name from your hand without paying its option cost. So that really helps out, gets us some free value, triggering off our minusing DP effects, our, just controlling the board status that our opponent doesn't want. Most of this is going to help us draw or gain memory to keep it our turn. Most of the plugins are like defensive for reboot and blocker, and these all, as long as we have a tamer, don't have a color requirement. Plug-in for Digi-Evolution up another stack, which can help out and just set up for another Sakuyamon play. Plug-in just extra security check, and they all have something that revolves around adding them in security to hand, but they add a search function, and it's just really awesome there. And then upgrade plug-in 0. This one, it has a gain, 1 memory and then add to hand. And then main effect, one of your Digimon gets plus 3,000 DP until the end of opponent's turn, making them a little more beefier to deal with. Sakuya mated mode kind of comes in to help here. This is basically, you may use an option with a plug-in in its name, or a yellow option when the memory costs 5 or less. We don't really care about the 5 or less yellow option, ignoring color restrictions without paying its cost. Then after using that option card, instead of trashing it, place it at the top of the security stack face down. Really useful at the end of the day. And then when attacking, you may Digivolve into a Sakuyamon in your hand for a memory cost 1, ignoring its Digi-Evolution requirements. So then you'll go into this one after going from maiden mode to this. And then when Digivolving, unsuspend one of your Digimon, and for each tamer you have in play, return one option with plug-in its name from the trash to your hand. When you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3,000 DP. We're trying to control the board with these minusing DP effects. Really does help out. We have Venusmon that's going to draw us a card. Every time we use an option, gain memory if we deleted a Digimon, which is very easy with this deck. If you use an option, gain a memory. Then we have, when you use an option, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 DP. So we're trying to just lower big boss Digimon down to a point where it'll be easier for us to kill. And that's just really the deck in its nutshell. Using these plugins for free with Rika's effect, or, even hard playing them if we have to. But it's just really a good deck. I think this has some, left fields that your opponent's not going to expect. Bloomlord is another big boss in this format. It does need Hydra for this deck to just finally go nuts. But Bloomlord is just a really powerful Digimon itself. When Digivolving, you may suspend one of your Digimon. Then for each of your suspended Digimon that contains plant, vegetation, or fairy in its traits, you gain 1 memory. When you gain 2 or more memory with an effect, unsuspend. With this effect, unsuspend this Digimon, it gains piercing. So basically, hopefully you're going to swing with your level 5, then Digivolve into Bloomlord, then swing in again, and that because he restand with piercing, because our board is wide, we have a lot of on play, get some stuff out, and then for every 2 of your suspended Digimon, this Digimon gets plus 2,000 DP and gains security plus 1. He's another OTKer in the deck. He's really powerful, and this is basically another way of playing like Grand Quagmon back in the day, but this one now builds a wider board and your opponent has to answer it. It is very, very, very susceptible to Death X. So if you build too wide and you don't play everything right or Digivolve up at the right time, you might see a Death X in your future that kind of just board controls you out of here. But outside of that, it's just a very straightforward deck. We have Digizorptions and stuff like that. Cherrymon just is one of our defensive options that kind of just redirect attacks to certain targets, because they're going to start swinging at the little guys to try to get them off the board. Because the more you have these on the board, it just gets ridiculous snowballs. We have like Sunfloramon. By suspending one of your green Digimon, you may play 1 Digimon card that contains plant, vegetation in its traits, and 3,000 DP or less from your hand without paying its memory cost. Again, it's just a lot of snowballing. They're going to build wide boards pretty quickly. And that self-sustain the Digizorption, by the way. Then we have Erjotamon. By suspending one of your green Digimon, you may play 1 Digimon card that contains plant, vegetation, fairy, and its traits with 3,000 DP or less from your hand without paying its memory cost. Again, 3,000 DP. Our champions, basically this whole setup Our low end is all 3000 DP or less. So this is just going to set us up really nicely. You know, we have Argomon here, just a bridge gap, and then Blossomon, same thing. We use Rafflesiamon for good reason, and let me tell you. It's basically just to slow down our opponent. If we can get into Rafflesia, Digiburst, we can slow down our opponent's pressure turns. And it really does help out because she can just, whenever a Digiburst is activated, which is going to be her effect, basically set our opponent back a little bit. Really does help out. You know, great option here is suspend Grande Soul, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of its owner's deck. Really useful, great removal. We know what Mimi does. She's going to do the whole fun yards, and then the rest are kind of like searchers, power boosters, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. We're going to use Argomon because mostly our boss Digimon should be staying alive. Most of the time, your opponent just can't interact because if we can't Cherrymon on the board, your opponent's not going to do much from there because we'll redirect it where we want. It's not terrible, but that's kind of Green's nutshell. It does need Hydramon to be really just out of the world of this. So, just very powerful deck in general. Then we have Ragnalordmon. Basically, this is a level 7 themed deck. It wants to Jogress into it. Unlike Odidimon, that kind of has double Jogress situations, this one is not all about that. This one is really powerful too, but it takes a very confident pilot to win with it. So what am I talking about here? Well, you know, when Digivolving Blitz, when you DNA Digivolve for every 4 Digievolution cards this Digimon has, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 20 or less, then trash top 4 of your opponent's security stack. All turns when a card is removed from either player's security stack, unsuspend this Digimon. So what's going to happen here is we might swing in. We have a way of gaining a memory back before the opponent's turn ends. We can basically trash a bunch of junk. And now we can swing in for another game situation. And that's just how that's going to go. We use pieces like Bahomon, unsuspend up to 2 Digimon and or Tamers. Then gain 1 memory for each of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon and Tamers. If they have a very wide board or a bunch of Tamers, we can instantly now just gain this card for free or even gain memory back. And a turn, once per turn, for every 2 unsuspended Digimon and or Tamer your opponent has, trash 1 of their top security stack. What we're doing is not really having to worry about our opponent. This deck will probably do well in heavy security control matchups. That's just how that's going to be. But being able to trash so much is really fun. So the reason why this deck gets really nutty is there's a lot of your turn when a card is placed into this Digievolution card by an effect. This Digimon cannot be deleted by effects. It has a lot of self-protection. Blasphemy. When Digivolving, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play without paying its memory cost when Digivolving. So this thing lets self-sustains itself, basically being able to play a Legendary Arms without its memory cost. So basically what you're going to be able to play is your level 5s back onto the board. And you kind of do this with Doraemon as well with Bryoludamon. So basically sets yourself up so you can Digivolve into it and then instantly Jogress into your Ragnalordmon. So it's not terrible trade-off. I think this is very powerful plays and we set ourselves up very easily. And then a lot of our stuff in the level 4s category, basically on play, you may place this Digimon under one of your other Digimon. So basically if you play them through these Digievolution effects, you get to put them underneath, which builds up the clock, which builds these big stacks for Ragnalordmon. And that's just kind of what we're trying to do here. And then we have a bunch of searchers and then the on players themselves. It's not terrible. The deck is going to do stuff. I just don't know how consistently it's going to pull this off. So just understand that. The deck is going to take a lot of work and probably some strength behind it. But the deck will do a lot of crazy shenanigans. Revealing the top 4, and it uses like Legendary Arm Alliance here. You reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Place those cards at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. But main phase, you may play 1 Digimon with a 7 cost or less Legendary Arms traits from your hand without paying its memory cost, then place this card into the owner's battle area. And then security is just basically play a level 7 cost. So it's just a lot of crazy shenanigans you get to do with this. It has a lot of protection from outside of minusing DP. That's going to be useful, and that's going to set you ahead. And then we use like Mechanori just to slow down our opponent a bit. But outside of that, nothing too crazy on the deck. The deck's going to do what the deck wants to do. Next, We have Darkknightmon X Antibody. This deck is all about applying pretty much pressure to your opponent. What do I mean by that? So basically, return one purple or black Digimon card other than Darkknightmon X Antibody from your trash to your hand. Then when this Digimon has Darkknightmon or X Antibody in its Digi-Evolution cards, delete one Tamer, unsuspend this Digimon. So he can let you swing in like a couple times. Not too crazy, but it's going to work. And then on deletion, you may play one Darkknightmon from your trash without paying its memory cost. So what we're trying to do here is basically have Darkknightmon come in for, you know, we have two of them. We have the old Darkknightmon and the new Darkknightmon. On play, de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then if you Digicross with 2 material, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost 5 or less. Really does help out. You can get rid of threats very easily. The small guys, especially the ones that are trying to negate you from playing, really does help out. And then all turns when this Digimon would be deleted, you, by returning one level 4 or lower Digimon card from this Digi-Evolution sources to your hand, you may play one Skull Knightmon or Deadly Axemon from this Digi-Evolution card without paying its memory cost. House cycle, the stacks keep coming back, and it's just really annoying to deal with. And then you have Skull Knightmon and Deadly Axemon for Digicross. And it comes in basically for a 4 cost. Not terrible. And then you have Nene here, basically all your Digimon with Darkknightmon in their name or Twilight Game blocker. So this is going to help alleviate damage that they're going to try to throw at you. And then on deletion, gain 2 memory. So if they pop her, you're going to gain more memory. But if they also, you can pop her with your Darkknightmon skill, and that can go snowballing as well. So, and then revealing the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 Knightmon or Deadly Axemon. So, pretty much a lot of pieces that search. We have Monotamon just being Monotamon. The reason why I'm playing Toy Agumon is because we don't have the security Digimon. This is going to help the deck if we had it, but that's just about it what we can do here. That reboot is just reboot. Just to give us, if we swing in twice, at least they have to swing in another way of removing Darkknightmon. And that's fine by me. I kind of want to just prevent them from doing that. And then Chichorimon, basically if they hit this, it's going to de-Digivolve their big boss Digimon. And then we already know what most of these Skull Knightmon and Deadly Axe do. It gives an extra security check, and this one gives extra power. But also, this one searches us here, and that's not thinking too crazy. And then Gammamon for hybrid game shenanigans. You know, Immortal Ruler, being able to trash 3 cards on the top of the deck, and then play a Darkknightmon from your trash, paying its play cost in its Digi-Evolution with a If the Digimon with a Digi-Evolution cross requirement would be played, you may also place cards from your trash as Digi-Evolution cards from the sources. So basically making this one become in for a 4 cost, as in general, but it's in the trash. Now you have access to it. Not a bad trade-off. And then you have like Izzy being Izzy, and then Pride Memory Boost to help speed up the board clock. And then Death X is just basically to control the board on your opponent. It just helps out. And then let's talk about it. Next deck, we're kind of running down the last couple decks here. So we do have Bagra's Army. Really, the deck is in shambles. It's nothing too crazy. It hinders on use effects, basically being able to be the only way you get to put, you know, sources from Tamers underneath. And it's just basically the only store here that you have. And it's the only way you reduce play costs. So you can play by placing up to 3 Digimon from under your Tamers in that Digi-Evolution cards, reduce the play cost of that Digimon by 2 each. So it can reduce by 6s. So you get like 7 and stuff like that. It's nothing too crazy here. You know, you have Tactimon, stuff like that. So on play, you may play up to 2 level 4 Digimon Bagra Army traits from trash without paying its memory cost. Then those Digimon gain blocker until the end of opponent's next turn. The deck is going to do what it wants. It's got a lot of interact on your opponent's turn kind of thing. It's going to remove sources. A lot of these are if this Digimon is removed from its inheritable, gain a memory. It's just all this fun stuff. You know, you're going to be milling out. The deck is not really consistent. It needs more support. It needs a second wave, probably even a third wave to be even just better. You know, just Blastmon and Tactimon is not enough for this deck. But it's a deck no less. You guys can play it out right. It's going to do some shenanigans. It's going to be able to search out your UU. It's just going to do what you need to. So, very powerful deck all in general. Then we have Minervamon Loop. So basically everything in this thing is just consistent loop status. So what we were trying to do here is Minervamon what you're going to do is when your Digimon with 2 or less in play, you may play 1 purple level 5 or lower Digimon card or 1 Minervamon from your trash without paying its memory cost. Cool. So opponent's turn also, if they play a Digimon, you instantly get a level 4, which is going to grab you your blocker in most cases. So that's what you're kind of doing, and it has retaliation. So it can just trade with a big boss Digimon and then get a wide board. So what is the main combo here? So we have Minervamon here that's going to be swinging in, but if it doesn't die, this is what you're kind of trying to do, is use like Back from Revenge to be able to make sure it comes back. And then delete one of your opponent's Digimon. Then you may play a level 5 or lower purple card from your trash without paying its memory cost. Any on-play effects of that Digimon would not be activated. So the goal of this one is you're going to pop Minervamon here with Revival from Darkness after you use Back from Revenge. Go play Cerberusmon with Revival from Darkness. And then with Minervamon's effect, you get Werewolf mode to pop this for basically recovering you 3 memory on top of that. This is like a 6 memory cost thing, so using Jack Race to kind of speed this up. And then you're just going to go from there. And then you'll have Minervamon on board with a Werewolf mode, and that's just rush in there and set up even just a Lilith Loop or anything like that, or another Minervamon afterwards. Doesn't matter, you're going to be set up, and that's kind of just the combo plays you want to do with this deck. You know, you have Ginkgomon promotes, Psychmon and Gammamon is just to slow down your opponent so that they don't kill you, and you are susceptible to Death X's as well because you build a wide board, but luckily, you know, you're not really having a lot of DDG evolution targets for them. So, that's kind of just the gist of the deck. There's nothing too crazy here. You're going to have ways of popping your Minervamon after, and then just constantly just Werewolf mode, pressure, keeping your turn. This is like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You're just going to constantly just spam out stuff, and your opponent just has to deal with it. So it's nothing too crazy. I mean, the deck's going to be what a lot of Loop players have been waiting for. They're going to be excited for this. Expect a lot of purple players on this. And then we do have the Venusmon. I think Venusmon is going to be played in Angelwomon, aka deck. This deck is basically probably its go-to time because yellow-red got hit in a way that it's just not as effective to go into her because they want to cycle in differently. When Digivolving, all your opponent's Digimon gain minus security attack until the end of their turn, so it doesn't matter if they come out of Raising, Digivolve on a Hybrid, on a Tamer, they always have minus security attack for the turn. Opponent's turn, your opponent's Digimon with security attack can't attack, or when this Digimon, or any when Digivolving or when attacking effects of those Digimon cannot activate. So it's basically shutting down your opponent's, you know, combinations and crazy shenanigans. We like play Psychmon just so they can't, you know, punish us by playing a Death X. And then we have Gaze shutting them down, but it's also Psychmon's just to slow down your opponent's, you know, Xros Hearts and all that fun jazz. You know, we already have Flame Hell Scythes to just extend our plays, basically get our free Angelwomon back. Gatomon's just for Digivolving up so you can go Angelwomon into Angelwomon X Antibody too. But also, that minus security effect does really come in useful at times. I mean, we have Chaos Degradation to get rid of threats, Mastemon for this combo here with Black Gato. Outside of that, nothing too crazy. We do have Ophanimon Fall Down mode to get Gatomon back to reclimb back in. It's just a lot of crazy shenanigans we're going to do with this deck. You know, Mako's just to reduce the Gatomon play cost, or Black Gato when it comes in. Not terrible. I mean, we're going to have a lot of ways of Sunday to do things with this deck. So, I mean, outside of this, it's nothing too crazy. We already know what the Angel deck does. It's going to recover. It's basically what Yellow Hybrid used to be, but a little more costs in ways that we're just not heavily relying on Tamers. So, I mean, it's a good deck. We're going to have to see how it survives the format. And then King of the Ring itself, Shoutmon ×4. This is really basically the deck that you have to beat or be prepared for. So this is why everybody's buying Death X now, because they're trying to be able to beat Shoutmon ×4. So material save, on play, draw 2, and this has an end of effect that basically pops itself, hides it underneath the Tamers, and just goes to town from there. And it just needs Shoutmon, Ballistamon, Duralumon, and Starmons for 1 cost basically come in play, which he can basically make it free. So it's not terrible. It just gets really ridiculous quickly. I mean, we use Christopher here just for the same reason we use Mikey, and that's just because we need to use them to get our sources from the Digimon that we put underneath our tamers. So as long as we have one Christopher, one Takai, or aka Mikey, we're going to be able to use Zenjiro's effect twice, because that would be the target you want to restand with ×4 so that you can keep it your turn, and then apply twice as many pushes with Jesmon ×4, especially if we have a tie out too. Just a lot of crazy shenanigans. You know, we're just going to be using all these fun stuff. You know, Shoutmon's our searcher, but also gives us rush, so that's where we're getting our applying our pressure here. Here's our piercer, so that if we have to swing into a Digimon, we can still get the checks in. Starmon's our drawer. Same with Pikmon, we're going to draw with it. Sparrowmon's just basically, this gives reboot, so that when we go into ×5, it at least has a way of being a blocker, and it has security check and reboot. It gets really ridiculous pretty quickly. Then you have Darkknightmon. That's basically, while this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, all your opponent's security Digimon gets minus 2,000 security. That just gets ridiculous really quickly, but also at minusing DP when it's played, especially because Akari is basically going to play him for free. That means minusing, and it also gives you draw advantage. So the deck is really crazy. What's busted about this is basically Sunrise Buster. Since we play a lot of red and yellow tamers, this thing basically can kill any boss Digimon on game. So that's just how that goes. Fireball is just really to get rid of your opponent's annoying little Psychmons and stuff like that. If you blow them up, there's no point in them keeping them going. And then you have like Crimson Blaze. Basically, if they go wide, you can just remove a lot of threats that way, and this thing becomes cheaper and cheaper. So the deck is going to be a lot of shenanigans that your opponent is not going to like. This deck is annoying, it's consistent, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!